Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about Wuchang Fallen Feathers, or Wuchang. I probably have said it wrong both times. I'm going to do this in as spoiler-free a fashion as I can. No bosses are shown. I am going to demo a couple of weapons and skill tree things, so if you really want to go full, like, zero knowledge, that's fine. But I'm not going to show you any bosses. I'm barely going to even show you combat that much. I'm really going through systems and understanding stuff to look out for, things to be aware of in the world and kind of how they work and that type of stuff. I don't want to show you like pathing and secrets and other, that's not what's in this video. So if you're going for pretty spoiler free outside of literally the opening area that you're going to have to explore pretty much right out of the gate, you should be safe. That being said, let's jump into all the tips and hopefully you guys can learn something from this video. Another thing that will frequently happen as you're roaming around is you're going to hear this bird chirp. So I'm going to be quiet for a second and let you hear it. So it's kind of like that tone and cadence. So what you're looking for as you roam around, and as you get closer, sometimes you'll spot them. So it's these guys right here. They got these kind of little red eyes. They look a bit like a pigeon with gold tips on their feathers. And usually what I'll do is I'll just take like kind of your basic throwing dagger. So something really simple. Truly, these flying daggers, you'll find plenty of them. You can buy a lot of them. They're cheap. And I'll just have a few of these equipped. So if I see one, usually they're just high enough up. You're likely not going to be able to, always use a magic spell to get them or anything like that. So just chunk a dagger. And you will get an Aurum feather, which I'm probably mispronouncing. And I may mispronounce a lot in this game. I do apologize about that. But what these feathers do is it will randomly increase one of the following boons for a time. Max health, max stamina, or all damage dealt. So there are moments if you just need to say, hey, I got to go hard for a boss. Maybe I want to get a really good push at the very beginning. Pop a couple of these feathers. That might actually be a way to take advantage of these. I have plenty. I didn't use them that often, but that's what the feathers do, and that's what the birds look like. And you might hear the sound. They might be on another side of a wall, and you can't quite get to it. But what I would try and do is try and like lock on as you move around, like try and really lock the camera. And if the camera locks on and you can get close enough to it, you can tag it and get your feather. So that's what the birds and the feathers do. All right, one of my nitpicks about this game is ranged weaponry. Cannons can shoot you over buildings and you won't even be able to see them coming, but it's more the way any projectile fires from like a gun, a hand axe cannon, which is a weird word, but it's a thing, and then actual like ship-looking cannons, but they're typically planted on the ground. All of those have this weird like light up kind of delay, little projectile, and I just want to show you because I'm on New Game Plus, so I can probably take the hit, but just to see the shot. Like, the timing on it's a little weird. I got used to it at some point, but it's like the way, and this one's anything that arcs is definitely weird. These are always a little hard to time. Like that one I actually got. But anything that has like an arc to it, especially kind of a projectile path, so it'll be a slightly bigger gun or anything like that, they are just a little odd. So be aware, sometimes there's levels where you're going to get hit by a cannon, not be entirely sure why. Look up, maybe it's on the other side of a building and they've got loft on their shot, kind of like a pitching wedge in golf. Whatever it may be, when it comes to ranged weaponry in this game that shoots a projectile, it's weird to dodge, so just be aware, and sometimes it's just worth trying to kind of sprint back and forth a little bit just to outrun it. It's a weird thing, but I just wanted to make you aware of it. Another thing I wanted to point out is the chains that are between two sticks. What these are kind of like a trip alarm. They're chimes. They're basically going to make noise and they're going to trigger enemies to kind of come running at you. So if you can go around them, you'll be able to sneak up on enemies that would otherwise be alerted to you. Now, these are manageable in my opinion, just got to be aware that they're there. I tripped them on accident a couple of times. The other traps that I really do not like, and if you never get hit by one of these, I would be very surprised. It is the like bouncing Betty trip mine that you step on and then it explodes. Sometimes the areas that those are in, between the texture, the lighting, the shadows, whatever's on the ground, they are really, really, really hard to spot. So be aware, if you get hit by one, take a second and heal, and then just be completely on the lookout, start looking on the ground, trying to figure out what that little kind of, it's a baby little pop-up on the ground that you'll be able to spot, but man, they are hard to spot. Sometimes I swear they're almost under the ground. Just be aware, there are a few types of traps in this one. There's also going to be potentially ones where it's a square-looking switch. Typically, that's something that will do damage. If you step on it, it will be firing arrows, dropping something. Typically, if you see a square in the middle of a path or a room, something that's like, this is an odd cutout square that I can step on, that's probably something you want to avoid as well. So 3 different types of traps that I can remember. There may be more, but those are the main ones. Chimes, not that bad. They're like an alert for enemies. The bouncing Betty, basically step on thing that's going to explode. Those are horrible and hard to find. And then the square in the middle of any path or room or whatever, I hit a couple, but they're actually usually pretty obvious, so just avoid those as well. Now, I feel like if you played Bloodborne, you're on alert, like I am a lot, for enemies that are hiding. Now, this is one where they're kind of giving you a bit of a hint as he's doing this kind of like prayer sequence, perhaps, or whatever it may be. But there are enemies in this game, especially these little guys right here with the little yellow satchel on their back. They want to jump out, knock you off a ledge, a bridge, catch you at a really bad time. So be aware of corners especially. So corners in a building, like if I come over here, you can actually see the guy right inside the building waiting for me to walk in. Maybe around a corner, maybe on a bridge, there's like one rock ledge that's like right next to it, maybe there's a guy hiding behind it. Probably something that most Souls players are aware of right now, but maybe if you're jumping into this one, don't have as much experience. Not all games are like this, but some take advantage of it, and I will tell you, this is definitely one that there are plenty of enemies waiting to just kind of spring the trap on you. So just be aware, they will be all throughout the game, intermixed in, you know, big gaps or small gaps, but they're going to be there. So I don't know if this is a spoiler warning, so you can skip ahead to the next timestamp if you want to, but I kind of want to give you a heads up that these do exist. There are a few of your shrines that will actually turn into enemies that you have to take out for that shrine to be real. Believe me, they come at some inopportune moments. Now, I don't know if it's worth going up to every shrine and trying to swing through it, because I swear there might have been 2 or 3 that I found through my entire, like, 45 hours, but they do exist. So be aware, there's a few of those, and they're going to catch you at some fun moments. So if you're walking up to a shrine and you're like, I'm only at partial health, but I'm finally here, you might heal up if you have any left over, just to get a full health run into the guy. Not the hardest, not an easy enemy, though. Now, the other one are these, like, spider trolls, whatever you want to call them. They look like little spiders. They're in pots. Now, I don't know if there's a good way to point them out. I know, at least previously, since this is New Game Plus, there's one in that pot. So maybe a pot that's a little more... Nope, see, it was just the one in the back. They're really hard to spot, actually. They're in a pretty basic-looking pot, and they will poison. Now, I'm on New Game Plus, so I can take them out pretty easily, but they will also do... like poison damage to you, so they're kind of a pain in the butt. So just know that those are also going to happen occasionally too. So like these pots look fairly normal and okay, so maybe it was just the dull pot that was in there. Again, I probably saw those 4 or 5 times in my whole playthrough as well. They're not common, but you'll probably get a jump scare from both of those types of enemies that are hidden, because you're not going to expect them when they happen, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. They will happen and they'll catch you off guard, because there's no way to really know when they're coming. At least that I've seen. Maybe there's a tell. I haven't seen it yet, though. Not like, it's the chest in Dark Souls that ends up wanting to eat you, but there's a certain type of way you can see a piece of its chain sitting on the ground. I haven't spotted any major tells. If somebody does, throw that in the comments. So one more thing for hidden enemies is you might walk into a room that looks like this, and you're like, that's a lot of bodies. Maybe there's one of those that's going to wake up. Well, if you click the lock on, you can actually get a tell of what's available. And I'll actually tell you, there's even another one around this corner. He looks like he's sitting down too. But both of those are enemies that would wake up, and you can definitely get a jump on them if you know they're going to be there. If I look in this room, there's nothing. Look over here, I got 2 enemies. Now, sometimes there will be enemies that will, like, cower on the, like, side of a path or something. Typically, those that stay where they are. You can kill them, but I don't know if that really changes too much. These guys, though, man, they're annoying. But yeah, if you're trying to figure out what may or may not be an enemy, because there's a lot of fake outs at points where there's kind of a lot of corpses lined up and you need to know if one of those is actually going to be bad, try and do the lock on, and that'll give you another tell that an enemy is right there in front of you, just hiding in plain sight. The pickups that you have on the ground or on tables or wherever you can pick stuff up are going to come in 3 different colors. You're going to have blue, which are going to be very common. Those are like, hey, here's some more daggers, hey, here's some more, and that's the chime sound, by the way. These are pretty basic. These are going to be blue. They're everywhere. They drop off enemies, little extra mercury pickup, whatever it may be. Those aren't a big deal. Then you've got pink and yellow. They have different signification, but I would probably say that yellow is a bit more on the rare side. If you do see something yellow, it's probably worth the, trek around to see if you can find where that may be sitting at. It's either going to be a specific pendant, as you can see here. It's going to be maybe a weapon that I've seen a pickup for. When it comes to the pink ones, those might be weapon upgrade currency or something a bit more unique, maybe a story item. So be aware that pink and yellow, if you see those as items on the ground, you do want to pick those up. If it's something along the lines of like a blue pickup that's maybe a little hard to get to and you don't get to it, I wouldn't worry as much about that one. It's likely a consumable of some kind that's not as big of a deal. So those little guys, you see them on the ground, and if you can spot them up ahead, you'll know you need to kind of like run and sprint and get to them. They have kind of a big radius of attention. Like if you're close enough to them, they just pop up and start running. And if they run far enough, they'll jump into the ground and you'll miss them. They will respawn, like if you reset the world, aka like rest at a shrine or die, and then you'll get another attempt at them. But it's easier to kind of catch them as you get there. And basically all you need to do is just get one hit on them before they go away. So if you've got like a ranged spell that you can use or something like that, that's a nice way to do it. If you're going to run after them, maybe throw a dagger. Actually, I haven't done that in all of my time, even though I throw the daggers at birds. But the little green guys on the ground are exactly just these little things, these bamboo shoots that kind of run away. Take them out, and you hand these over to the Panda, which is a character you'll meet at some point, and you can get specific items from them. They're some cool stuff. There's not a lot of these in a normal run through, so you'll probably have to maybe acquire more on New Game Plus runs and stuff like that. But those little green guys on the ground, as soon as you kind of see them jump out of the ground, sprint after them and try and take them out. You'll get the bamboo shoot and you don't have to worry about them later on or hoping you see them respawn. Just wanted to let you guys see what that looked like, and now that you have, you're aware they exist. Alright, I can probably think of maybe 3 or 4 places I saw this, but I'm sure there's some hidden ones too. But sometimes you're going to see like a bridge that is gone, and you're like, there's no way across it, totally gone. Every blue moon, you're going to spot one that looks like this. There's a gap, there is something ahead of you that you're like, that's why is that floating in the air? And what it is this little green and yellow, I don't know, they look like smoking rocks, basically. And what they will allow you to do is go places you might not think you could. So if you see those, you might take a bit of a leap of faith, and without spoiling much more, hopefully that tells you kind of what's going on. But yeah, that's one that you see it and you're like, I have to test it out. Yeah, take that leap of faith because you might find some cool stuff in there. Another thing that might happen every so often is you'll be walking around and you'll actually see a cursor, kind of like a little icon, a little dot, appear on a door. Now, what that typically will mean is you'll knock, you'll have some type of dialogue, and again, not always is anything going to happen. Sometimes you'll get a couple of random consumable items, just like a nice gesture, hey, if I give you this, maybe go away. Sometimes you might actually get like a key or something that opens maybe an optional area. So, without spoiling anything, which is what I'm trying to do the whole time, if you see those in places, it may be worth talking to those doors at least once to make sure you kind of exhaust your options for what may or may not be a secret. Like right here, I can knock, not too much going on, heed my warning, it's scary out there. It's not always everything, but a few of them actually have something worthwhile, so give them a quick chat through and see if there's anything there that might be worth your benefit. Sometimes roaming around, you're going to find these little statues, maybe big, maybe small, but they're going to have this like blue glow to them, and sometimes you'll check a note, a statue, something, and you're going to get maybe a little world information, or maybe somebody left a note to somebody. These are a little different. You're going to notice it's going to tell you something specific to do in blue. So pay attention to the color piece. Sometimes it's going to be very obvious and just say worship. Sometimes it's going to say pay your respects. Whatever it is, you just need to go to your emotes, and then you need to come over here and find the corresponding one. Sometimes it'll say, hey, examine this pile of rubble. Or this one says pay your respects. So if you worship on this one, then you will typically get like a little bit of voice dialogue, but you're also going to get a skill tree point more often than not. Sometimes it's a couple other things, but they're definitely worth trying to figure out. They're not always completely clear, or you may not have the right emote equipped, but see, there's a divine gift for clearing madness and that kind of thing. If you find these, definitely worth doing. I don't think you can repeat them except on like New Game Plus run, but definitely if you see blue dialogue and some of these things you can interact with and check, do the emote and you'll get whatever benefit comes from that. Alright, so let's talk about your shrines. I mentioned before that these things can actually be enemies. It's only a few times, but I've had it come up and man, they're inopportune. They don't put one on a giant ledge like this, but if it's in the middle of kind of a more open area, it's happened a couple times. So sometimes you got to kill those things, and then the shrine will actually appear for real. But when you go to worship, you actually have to the first time do like a blood offering to activate it. Make sure anytime you see one of these, before you go any farther, walk over and activate it. Because at that point, it will be considered a spot that you can teleport to. You'll have unlocked the ability to teleport to any of these locations. And that's a nice thing to do depending on if you do mosey ahead and die, or you need to travel back and forth, or whatever happens, you can get back to this one quickly. And if you activate this one, it's going to be your respawn point as well. So that's a really important thing to make sure you do. When you get to one, you don't have to instantly enter the dream. Enter the dream, rests, resets the state of the world, gives you your heals back, that kind of thing. But you don't have to. If you are roaming around, going through, say, this area that's down below, like, this is early game, but you're going to roam through most of what you see down there, actually. And say you find a shrine that's, like, partway through out there, but you're doing okay on heals, and you're like, I don't want to reset the world because I'm trying to figure out this kind of maze of an environment. Don't. Just come in here, activate it. Now, what I would recommend doing is you'll see the Impetus repository. This is the skill tree. I'll talk about this a little bit later. But you need to refine red mercury essence. That's the, like, souls that you'll be accumulating. And to get to the next level, you need to figure out how far you are. I am literally 400 away on this one. So what I can do, and what I recommend you doing, is if you have the currency, when you come in here, just cap off to the next level. That's what I did the whole time through, and it's a nice way to use whatever you've got. So if I need 400, I've got like 21 of these, 8, 7, and I've used these partially as I've gone through. But if you get to one of these and you're like kind of close, like if I'm 16,000 and it's like 50,000, yeah, I'm probably going to wait a bit because I'm accumulating a decent amount. But if I'm like 50,000 needed and I'm at like 47,000, yeah, I'm going to find a way to get a few thousand together, get my level, and then that way if I do die, much less risk. So at this point, you can go to batch use, so you can use multiple at the same time. I'll use my 4. And now that my 400's done, you'll notice as soon as you get in here and you see that Impetus repository with that animation on it that looks like it's kind of got this flickering effect to it. When you come in here, you'll see the red essence is going to allow you to make that level jump, and that's going to give you 1 red mercury essence to use, and that's what you're going to use within the skill tree. But you can do all of this without resetting the state of the world, and that's something I actually did more often than I would have expected. Most like Dark Souls bonfires, I'm like, oh, please give me the heals. And believe me, there were times that I needed every one of those heals that I had just lost. But occasionally, you're having a pretty good run, and you don't need to do a full reset yet. Tag this place as a respawn point, and then see how much farther you can go. If you do that without entering the dream, then you're good, because that way you don't reset the state of the world. Now, the next thing to talk about is going to be tempering. Tempering is going to be how you give your weapons their cool effects. And the first thing I probably should tell you is how to actually use tempering. So once you unlock the ability, which I don't know how quickly it comes into play, you need to actually equip this thing as one of your quick access. So this is like a lantern, which is not totally necessary. But this is actually what you need to equip. Now, I have 3 charges of it. You'll unlock extra charges from the skill tree. But if you don't actually have this equipped on your skill bar, you're going to need to go into your inventory and activate Temperance, and more often than not, you're going to want to use this in probably bigger fights and such. It's one of those things that you probably want to have on your quick bar, but I will be honest with you guys, it took me probably half the game to figure out I needed to do this, use this item to actually take advantage of tempering. I did not do it for a very long time, and I was missing out on that for a good chunk of the game. Sad, but it happened. So what does it do? Well, it allows you to have a cool effect on your weapons that is going to have some kind of trait to it. So you'll notice the one that I have effect of the bone needle I have in there right now is flame. It used to boost your weapon's fire attack power, and also enables it to cause burn buildup. Burn is going to be like the debuff on the enemy, and you also will get fire attack power bonus. So you can see on the bottom right hand side, we're blue. Tempering is available for your current weapon and bone needle. They have to match. Now, the reason I say that is on my current sword that I've got, it's a pretty neutral sword. I think it might have feathering or some pretty neutral thing. But if I want to go over to Leech, you'll see, yeah, I don't get the stat boost. But leeching, when I activate it, allows me to sap health from my enemies. Believe me, it's a really great way to stay alive, actually, in a pinch. Or on boss fights, I've used it too. It's kind of one of my favorites for survivability, but if you're going for big attack power, you'll do other things. So Leech is one of those that if I choose that, that's great. But if I switch weapons, it is actually not going to work with my axe. Now, the reason that's the case is my axe is an axe that is going to need Scorn Great Axe, even says in the bottom right hand corner, can only be tempered with Bone Needle Flame. Specifically that one, because it causes higher burn buildup. So if I switch over, now you can see that I've got the fire at 90 instead of the other that I had before. So the burn buildup's there, I've got the damage, and that's just one of those things. This one's like a much higher level. That's why this one's like level 10. This is literally level 1, so they're not even close. But what you're able to do is you need to match the flame bone needle to something with flame. So pay attention if you're going to have two weapons equipped, which most likely you will for a couple of reasons, that they're both using something that you can use. Or just know that the tempering effect is mainly for a certain one, and if you want to switch ability, you can do that. But mainly you're going to have one that you probably focus on for quite a while until you get to like New Game Plus a couple times over. The other slots are modifiers. So you'll see the, and I can't pronounce any of the other acupoints in here, but you've got the first one, and you can just kind of equip whatever acupoints you find. So I've got not that many. I went through 45 hours, and I did not find that many of these somehow. I missed probably a good chunk of finding stuff, and I explored a decent amount. So this one's going to be Strength, so this one will just increase my attack power based on what's going on. So if I start here at 189 plus 175, get that one equipped, and now I'm at plus 193. That's adding Strength, and my Strength stat is going to bring its, like, what, 45, I think, at Strength. It's going to bring that into the benefit of the weapon. Same thing with Agility. Bring that up here. Now I'm at 204 for the Slash, as an example. Now, there's one more slot up top, the Jiao Lao, which I'm sorry for the pronunciation. That last one, that's just one I haven't unlocked yet, but I'll show you where those are in the skill tree. This one here, I could either go for Magic, which it's not going to do much. You'll notice if I take it off, it's almost not different at all. Now, it will give me more magic bonus for a certain weapon, but also I've got ones that potentially will, say, increase the duration of tempering. Well, if I go Leeching, for example, I want Leeching to last as long as possible, so maybe this one will help my, simulate your mid-range to increase the duration of your tempering on this one. And this one down here will also, this one will increase the attack power. So if I just want more attack power to do more Leeching and then have Strength come with it, when I click on Leeching, that's going to be a nice big benefit. So that's what Tempering will do, and make sure you have that on your quick access bar. And again, another tip in here, if you want to get to your items, press and hold press and hold X, and you can actually just do those as a one button push. For spells, it's the same way. You have 4 spells that you can pick between on the left. Hold Y, and you can actually just go directly to that spell, use it once, and you can see what's available. So that's Tempering. Gives your weapons a cool effect, but you have to find all these bone needles and things around the world. So again, you're going to want to do a good amount of exploring. Next one is going to be Benediction. Now, Benediction is going to be kind of sockets on your weapon. So you'll notice, like, say, the axe, for example. I have no Benediction socketed. Now, I can see that I've got the gray icon. That's equipped on something else. This one's equipped on something else. And some of these are give or take. Some of these are bonuses. So while I'm at full health, I increase my damage dealt, but I also increase my damage taken. So it's a little bit risk reward. Some of these are all going to be that way. Increase damage dealt while your health is below a certain threshold. So if I do get hurt, I have the chance to do some more damage. Increase damage dealt while at full health. So you've got Vitality Force, Ferocity, and you'll notice this is part of the, that's the momentum set. There's a set effect. And you can see the little sets have icons. So I've got this one, blocking clash. This is actually New Game Plus. I got a bonus one, so that's the second one that I've got. And all of these are just things that you'll socket in to get additional benefits depending on the playstyle that you're going for. The potency of backstab attacks, for example. Backstab attacks, if you can get behind them, especially on certain enemies, that's a really big one. Then you'll go over, select a different one. You've got a different set here. And if I'm trying to match, you'll notice this is the Impale set. Greatly increases the power of stab attacks. So here, Obliterate, which is, I think, your kind of critical attacks, recover a small amount of health. Great. Last one, looks like over here, now you can see I've actually got the set bonus. As soon as I flick over, that set bonus kicks in. Greatly increase the attack power of stab attacks, which is great. And then also consecutive attacks increase your damage. So if you're going more for damage and you don't care as much about survivability, you can start putting in some major work if you put the right Benediction kind of gems in your sockets. They're not gems that, you get your oaths and memories and wisdom and all these little stones to put in, but in me it's kind of like socketing your weapons. But pay attention to the sets because they can make a substantial difference. but it's all just based on whatever playstyle you're going for. So if I know, like this one, if I've got increased damage dealt, if I have 3 discipline skills, and I'll get to that in a second, increases stamina recovery during Skyborn Might, which will, that's like your energy, and then consecutive attacks increase your stamina recovery. That was just the playstyle I was using. Worked with that one for a while, but it wasn't a set bonus. You really want to synergize, pay attention to what you're picking. So that is your Benediction, and you'll find all these little stones all over the world. And as I mentioned, you're going to find a +1 version of that that actually can get, I think, potentially some benefit. So pay attention to what you're putting in there. You may not have enough for a set, but at some point, if you find enough, you might be able to build a set. And the benefits are probably worthwhile if you can really synergize your playstyle. So the next thing is Invoke, which goes into your Madness meter. So Madness is a thing. You're going to look in the upper right-hand corner, and right now I'm 0 of 171. That is the current capacity of Madness that I've got. Now, you'll notice this thing, you find them I have a whole 13 from my 45 hours played, something you're not going to use very often, but you grants 5 stacks of Skyborn Might, but it also increases your Madness. And also come here, I can reduce stamina cost for an extended time, but this is going to cost me 20 Madness buildup. Now, I have 0 at the moment, but as you kill humanoid-style enemies, what's going to happen is you're going to build your Madness up to basically max. You can kind of check your character stats. Inner Demon, 0 of 171. That's the same thing. As that accumulates, as you're defeating humanoid enemies and not the feathered ones, you can kill the feathered enemies and they might bring it down a little bit, but you're going to eventually max your Inner Demon out every so often. When your Inner Demon is maxed, what's going to happen is, if you die and your Inner Demon is at max, you're going to leave your souls on the ground that you can go back and pick up like every Souls game. But when you get back to them, you're going to have to face your Inner Demon. And it's not an easy fight. They're usually pretty potent, pretty agile. And if you lose that fight, you're going to lose that collection of souls that you might have had otherwise. So, depending on what's going on, you can't like die, go back to the shrine, and then lower your hatred. Your hatred's already there, or your Inner Demon. But if that Inner Demon spawns, you need to be ready and just know it's coming. So if you realize that you died and you had your full Madness up, that you're going to be in for a bit of a fight when it comes to getting back to your like souls pickup that might be sitting on the ground. Just be aware that it's going to be there because they are a legitimate fight. But basically what Invoking will do is it allows you to prop your Madness up quicker if you want to. So if I use, say, one of these, prevents the loss of red mercury the next time you die, that's kind of cool, but it's also going to give me 100, Madness buildup for my Inner Demon. It's mad. I'm calling it Madness. I'm probably saying the wrong thing, but you guys get the idea. And you have that option of like boosting up. You're like, why would I want to face that? There's a lot of skills as you go through some of these skill trees when you get above 50% Madness, for example. I'm not crazy. I was saying 50% Madness. While above 90% Madness, there are certain benefits that you get from a build that could actually be really cool, but you might need to, fast track your way into increasing your Madness as opposed to just running around and killing enemies. Invoking is how you do that, just so you're aware. So that's the whole system. You've got Madness, and every so often, if you do get to that max point and then you die, you're going to have that wonderful Inner Demon waiting for you, and that is not an easy fight. So just be aware that that's going to happen, and that's kind of the whole Madness system. I don't think I ever used the warehouse once. I mean, it stores your overflow materials. Like, I have 67 of these steamed bunny buns, which are just a small heal over time. I've got 67 of them waiting there. If you die, it automatically restocks. It's very simple. I don't think I interacted with the warehouse like one time. It just is auto working and it's just there. Now, discipline is how you're going to set up your weapons, because you'll notice, for example, I've got my lashing whip. I love this thing. It was cool. It's got this like whip extension where I've got a little bit more range than I normally would. The whip dance, which you can see that blue little pip over there, it's going to cost me 1 Skyborn Might, basically 1 magic energy, to use my whip dance, and I can use it pretty frequently. It's actually not bad. The sword counter that you see below that, so we're talking upper right hand corner, lashing whip plus 10. Whip dance is my like weapon specific, like this specific weapon's skill. It's only tied to this weapon. The sword counter is for that weapon family. And by weapon family, I mean long swords or axes or dual blades or one-handed or spears. Those are families. So here you're going to notice if I come down here and maybe I want Corrosive Fury. Well, if I select that one, now it's Whip Dance and Corrosive Fury. I have the option to use both of those. Or there's also one for the longsword. You can have a kick. and this is the blink kick. It's kind of like a spinning back kick, and that's going to require Skyborn Might for that one as well. But that's only 1 and 1. Kind of pick what you want to use. And look at the Flamebringer, sorry. Infernal Firebrand. So this is going to be a fire weapon. So if you were tempering, you would need to use fire. Could not use Leech on this one. But this is a fire weapon. And using temperance to buff fire makes the effect much more potent. It says it right there on the screen. If I want to set this one up with maybe blink kick for more offense, and I've got this one set up with counterattack as more of a defense setup, I could actually go into my inventory and have 2 longswords equipped with very different effects. Kind of a cool way to work. And I would recommend focusing on one weapon family. That way, you're going to be able to level up that whole family. Notice how they're all plus 10? It's because longswords are leveled up. Now, you can actually reset your skills, and I'll tell you that in a second, or I'll show you where that is in a second. Not a big deal to actually just reset your skill tree and then pick the other weapon if you want to experiment. I actually recommend that. Figure out what works for you. But I would focus most of your skill points into one weapon family, and then maybe have like an alternate weapon or maybe one other thing that you want for a smaller reason. But you're going to probably learn to live with one family of weapons for most of your a lot of your damage, and then you might have like a flipping skill that I'll kind of mention a bit later. But when it comes to discipline, you're going to be picking what weapon, mainly because that weapon is going to have a specific skill tied to it, or maybe a damage type like fire. And then the other thing you're going to be picking on said weapon is whatever skill in that family is attached to, and you'll be able to unlock different skills as you go. Just depends on how much you've unlocked. All right, this is going to be a big one. So the Impetus repository, this is basically your skill tree. So I mentioned previously how leveling up is. You can see how much, if you want to refine Red Mercury Essence, you're like, I need 67,000. It's going to be a minute till I get there. Okay. So the way the skill tree is set up, you've got your weapon family. So I've got axe, one-handed sword. I've got, or no, is this dual? Oh, this is dual wields. This is one-handed sword. Spears. And I spent most of my time in longsword just because I got comfortable with it and used it for a while. As you work your way down a skill tree, you're going to be kind of unlocking these branching paths. You can zoom out and see what's available. You can see a bit more of like what to expect. But you'll notice if you look faintly, like look right here. There are a bunch of little nodes that are way beyond what you can see. And same thing here. It's hard to see with the contrast, but there are nodes that as you're going through and exploring, like as soon as I get this one and maybe the next one, it's going to unlock, or this one will unlock more that'll go kind of in a forking path here. Then you go up to the top and down to the bottom. These skill trees are way bigger than you might think they are. So just because you're like, oh, cool, I got to the end, you're going to probably feel like you get to the end quite a few times, because when I zoom in, they're actually pretty faint to see until you get right here. But if you look closely, you'll be able to see what your kind of future progressions might look like as you work through. So here you'll notice blink kick. This is just required. For every base weapon family, you have the basic, weapon ability, not the like specific weapon ability, but you have the family ability. That one, you have one of them unlocked. But then as you work through the skill tree, you'll also be able to unlock other ones. Like I got sword counter over here. And since I was using sword counter, I didn't go after Crescent Moon. And then if you come down here, there was also Crescent Arc. And then over here, there was Corrosive Fury. So it's like if I'm not using it, I can actually reset it. And this is why I think, for one, experiment in the skill tree a ton, because they give you the freedom to do quite a bit. But also you can reset your skill points from a very specific point. Like if I want to go from here out, I can reset from this specific point and it'll reset 4 nodes. Just these that are passed. So if I still want to keep my feathering, I can, but if I don't care about Corrosive Fury, well, that's good. If you reset here, you can see that's going to reset 1 strength node, because it's probably this one that's tied to it. But if I reset, say, like this one, that's going to reset 2 node, like those 2 maybe, because I can get to it in another direction. But maybe if I do this one, it's going to reset 10 nodes. So you can reset kind of in smaller or bigger chunks, depending on what you may or may not want to reset. So you also notice that we've got Clash. That's going to give you an ability, but that's more of an intrinsic ability, something that's going to be active all the time. So this one, for example, is the 3rd attack of Longsword gains Clash. Clash weapons with your enemy, deflecting most of the incoming damage. You kind of basically keep attacking while they're attacking you with a little bit of like a, kind of a counter power through, but you're going to take some chip damage. So these aren't going to be anything that you specifically equip, like the 5th attack of Longsword, Light Attack. also grants me 2 stacks of Skyborn Might. Skyborn Might's an important thing. That is how you are able to use all of your spells. So Skyborn Might, having ways to earn that, really beneficial no matter which weapon you're using. So anything that gets you Skyborn Might, like, you know, this one right here, if I finish my combo, I get 2. That could be big because 2 might let me just straight up use a spell. Can be really important. So you'll have some intrinsic ones that you'll unlock, some like weapon family abilities that you can equip to specific weapons. Then you're also going to have your weapon mastery. This is how you level up your weapons. So if you picture in something like Dark Souls, you'll find like certain type of stone, and then the next level of stone after like +3, then you go through 3, 4, and like +4, +5, +6, and then +7, +8, +9, you'll need another currency. And then for +10, then you would need like the final currency. And you'll notice kind of the way this is set up. I've got 1, 2, 3 here. I've got 1, 2, 3 here. I've got 3 here, and then the final one is probably right down here. So if you fill out all of these, you've got to find the currency to do it. But if I go to reset, this is going to reset one node. All resources used to upgrade this will be returned. So you can even fully upgrade your longsword family all the way to +10. And if you're like, I want to try a different weapon, well, guess what? If I come over here to, say, one-handed swords, I'm going to have all that currency back to be able to max my sword now out to +10 as well. So my skill tree resets are never going to hurt my currencies. So truly feel free to experiment. No reason not to. So I know I said I went specifically with longsword. I just like the playstyle. But honestly, like, axes have some very cool effects. Look through these skill trees, and then once you... and pick one and just, like, use it for a while. If you don't love it, reset it out and try a different one. The farther you get into skill trees, you're going to get some interesting stuff in there. This is not specifically a video about builds, but more as to what you're going to be kind of seeing as you get in here so you understand the systems. The skill tree that is to your left, due west, this is your universal skill tree for magic, for healing potions, and those types of upgrades. So you'll see here, Shimmer grants 1 stack of Skyborn Might. Shimmer, evade at the opportune time to avoid the enemy's attack. So basically, if you dodge perfectly, you're going to get Skyborn Might, which is allows you to use your spells once you build up enough Skyborn Might. This is probably one of the first things I would get, truly, because getting your dodge to get you Skyborn Might, something you need to practice and get used to very early on. When you come out here, it increases the maximum stacks by 2 more. So this allows you to hold up to 3, and then you can start using some interesting spells. All these that have the potions on them, same thing. You're going to be getting a currency that you will use that's going to allow you to... I'm looking for here. So Lost Remains is this one, and then this one's Forgotten Remembrance. They're 2 currencies. They're pretty rare you pick up. But they're going to either give you mana charges, which are like the number of heals that you'll get every time you reset the world, or how much health you get back. And honestly, just anytime you get one of these, they don't cost red mercury essence. So maybe you did pick up one of those currencies of Forgotten Remembrance or Lost Remains, and you can come in here. It doesn't cost you red mercury to use this. This is not like a skill point. As soon as you've got like far enough access down this skill tree to be able to unlock it, you can use it. But the thing to know is, depending on what skill tree you're going down, these you can actually, like right here, I can put 3 of these in here. Same with 3 here, and 3 here, and 3 here. So you can get a lot out of this first area without having to go down here, but if you want to go down this far, you totally can. When it comes to things like temperance, do you want another charge for tempering so I have more leeching? That was a really nice thing. This one you'll see unlocks the Acupoints temperance. Acupoints are the different ones that you unlock, and as you work through, you'll find a few of these. That's another temperance charge. Down here, we're going to see unlocks the Acupoints, or a couple more. Down here, this is the Acupoint that I haven't unlocked, like the temperance Acupoint that was above, and it requires a very specific chisel, which I didn't find in my playthrough. So you'll be able to unlock a lot. You can also go down paths in some of these skill trees for stats. And this is where you're going to get your stats from. So I went through here to have my magic have some benefits. And you'll notice some of these are going to go to +5. Some of these are going to be a +1. The bigger ones obviously count for a bit more. When it comes to your stats, what you're going to notice is... oh, you actually have a little pop-up option there. Your stats will cap out their benefit at like 50. So just be aware if you get to 50, you've kind of hit the max benefit that you're going to get. Like my vitality right now is at 47. So I'm pretty close. Strength is at 45, so I'm pretty close there. But if I wanted to tweak a couple of things, you won't get any real benefit after 50, so just be aware that that's a limitation. If you're above that, you're not getting anything, so you probably should move some stuff around. So if you can get to some of these that will give you +5 to a stat, it's actually worth going after. And then if you can get to +5 once you start more stats or New Game Plus or whatever it may be, you may want to like work down the paths to a +5, and then you won't have to go through all of the +1s that you are going through here to try and get some of these other ones, like not really that beneficial. So for me, if I can get some strength or say vitality in another skill tree, I'm going to probably want these unlocked, but maybe if I go down this path to get here to Longsword Mastery, I could refund these two and put them somewhere else, especially if in another skill tree, like you can actually go through and say I want to go unlock axes now. If I want to go through this skill tree and I want to go get my strength here, then I don't need the previous one because I can, you know, use a couple points and get to a +5 or something. So you're probably going to want to tinker around with the skill tree. I would focus on a primary weapon for a lot of your weapon stats. I wouldn't like split everything by 2 between 2 weapon families. You're just not going to be as effective. But when it comes to this left skill tree, there's a lot of good stuff over here. Swift draws. This is something I'll briefly explain. And for me, it was an occasional frustration point because it's set up as the L3 button, pressing in the trigger. Every so often in the middle of a fight, I would accidentally hit that, and it's not a good thing. Because if you're in a fight and you're trying to control things, you don't want to accidentally cause an attack. And you need to typically have like 1 charge for it to actually trigger. But if you press it down, it will swap you weapons. Well, and it will do a weapon swap with a cool like animation or whatever it takes to do it. But it will use some of your Skyborn Might, so if you're trying to save that one. The other thing to know is what that's going to do is it's going to cause you to go through that animation. If you do it on accident, it's not the best thing to do. But here's another one of those. While above 50% madness, this is the reasons why you would want madness to be high and live with it for a while. If you're above 50%, you gain a stack of Skyborn Might upon using Alacrity. Alacrity, while casting certain spells, meld into the void when attacked to evade damage. So if you time a spell use right, and you're above 50% madness, you'll use a spell and then you can get some Skyborn Might back. Same thing here. While at or above 90% madness, the buff provided by biding time will not decay below 3 stacks. And then there's different buffs you can get. And then down in some of these trees, you can see increase how much burn you build up. So these are all your kind of status effects that you can work on build up for. Then if you come up here, Temperance accelerates its effects on your weapon, enhancing them faster than usual. So you can see up here, this is a Bone Needle for Poise Break, or Lightning, or Frostbite, or Corruption. And you would need specific weapons to use these with, like a Blight weapon or a Flame weapon. Poise Break in general is just going to be actually breaking their posture, which is not a bad way to go. That might be a way to get a lot of staggers. And then down here, you can see while at above 50% madness, the Skyborn Might cost of casting Echo-type spells, which I'm not entirely sure what those are, but someone will probably correct me in the comments. It's less cost. So then you're going to be able to use those more frequently because the spells cost a little bit less. And then I went down here and I got Bone Needle Leech, and I will tell you, Leech is fantastic. If you get a pretty neutral weapon and you want to be able to steal health, game changer for survivability at times. I mean, you've got magic here if you want to increase your spell's potency. You've got arcane if you want to use certain magic weapons, or feathering if you have feathering spells or whatever effects you want to trigger into. So that's what a lot of these offshoots are to go deeper into the bone needles, deeper into the acupoint system. Some of this increases the maddening incense's duration. So at the cost of bow blood. So the maddening incense effect I have currently at +2. How many maddening incense charges? That's a whole different thing that you can kind of trigger. And this is kind of where it's a little complicated, but mostly it's just like you've got feathering stats and magic stats. You've got your potion use and how many times you can use it. You're unlocking your acupoints so you can make your tempering cooler. You've got a lot of stats as you progress through here. Some of these you're just going to need specific items for. And then you've got your bone needles and tempering options here as you go throughout kind of some of the different directions. So explore that one for sure. Everything else is going to be weapon focused. My suggestion generally, work through a weapon tree as effectively as you can. And if you really do like a weapon type, you're only going to get up to +10 towards the very end of the game. It's the way all of these work. But if you go to New Game Plus, obviously it's going to be pretty strong. But then if you go to New Game Plus, then you can start working on a secondary weapon to be awesome and pair those two together and just be kind of an ultimate badass. So that's the skill tree. I know that was the long-winded chunk, but I did want to go through and break down the stat benefits that you're going to want to go for. 50 is the cap. Anything above that, you might want to readjust where you're getting your stats from and maybe use them in a different way. And also, when it comes to using the items for your potions, you do not need red mercury essence to level up your potions. So anytime you get those lost remains or forgotten remnants or whatever those things are, come in here and level up your potion. Doesn't matter if you've got the currency from red mercury essence because it doesn't use it. As you see over here, use red mercury essence 0, but it just costs lost remains, and that's the difference. So just wanted to make that clear. Hopefully that covers a lot of the skill tree to give you some pointers, some guidance on what to go for. But when it comes to weapons, figure out what works for you. Any Souls game is all about your playstyle, and I'm not going to tell you what's good or bad. That would be a completely separate video. But for me, I just had fun with longswords. There's good in all of these, so just experiment and have some fun there. All right, couple of things in your inventory. You're going to notice you've got different types of heals. You might have heal pills, health pills, then raven pills, which is a small amount. Some full HP recovery, restores health slowly over time. Same thing with this one. There are occasional items that will get you health back. Some you'll pick up more often than others. Like I have 67 steamed bunny buns, but I've only got like 16 of the raven pills. Kind of hit or miss depending on how much you're going to have for all of that stuff. Now this one, the maddening incense, you'll notice what this does. It increases madness when used and also prevents the loss of madness for a time. If for some reason you are trying to increase your madness to take advantage of your skill tree build, it's one of these things you want to pay attention to. Now, it says I've got carried 3 of 99, but you'll notice carried shows if it's reusable. Same thing here as temperance. This is the number that I hold. I have 3 charges for temperance. This restocks every time. So if for some reason you're like, I want my madness back, use this thing and max it out if you want to. Just know if you die, you're going to face that inner demon. But for certain builds, that might be an okay way to go if you feel comfortable playing everything. When it comes to resistances, you're going to have different things that you can use for resistance. You've got a couple of pills that are going to boost resistance. You're going to have alleviating corruption, blight, poise, frostbite. All of these, like if you equip them on you in certain areas that are like very poison ridden or corruption ridden or blight or frostbite, there's certain areas that are very tending towards that one. You can use these type of items to help alleviate that in a pinch if you're taking some damage. You're going to get some different daggers that are going to have their damage effects to help with certain buildup. You're going to have some throwable consumables. You're going to have your items, as I said, that you're going to be using for souls. So again, if you need to make the difference up for a level, you'll notice these that I'm getting now are pretty chunky, but you won't see these for a while. You'll start with the little guys, but that's how leveling goes. And then down here, the Aurum feathers, I've already covered those. Covered the bamboo shoots. You hand those over to the Panda for certain items. Wow, actually I noticed I got that one, the avian tear. That must be in-game type stuff. The bone whistle. So the bone whistle is something used to call a companion to assist you. You can use it once per life. It's just one of those things like the temperance and everything else. If you die, then you just reset your use and you're going to call in a companion to help. You can use this on every boss if you want to. I didn't, just because I like the challenge of doing it on my own. But if you want help on stuff all the time, you can use this every shrine you reset the world and have a buddy helping you out. I don't know how far they follow you through all these kind of twisting turn areas, but for bosses, if you feel like you want one and one's getting really frustrating, don't forget about the bone whistle. Every so often they can kind of help you make a difference. I think I ended up maybe using them to help learn a little bit of the boss and then kind of took them on my own. Another strategy you can use, but it's definitely there, so don't forget about it. Now, there's something I do want to point out. When it comes to your pendants, you're going to have different ones that do different things. Stamina recovery, damage dealt against large enemies, increase your weapon's feathering damage. Depending on what stuff does, you're going to have different pendants. Like if I want to come over here, increases stamina recovery speed, but I increase damage taken, increase the power of throwables, whatever it may be, you're going to have pendants that do a whole bunch of things. Also, apparently on New Game Plus, you're going to find the plus versions of them, so they're probably a bit stronger too. Spells, same way. As you explore, do different tasks, make it progression through the game, fight different side optional bosses, you'll unlock different spells that you can equip. Tinker with them, try them, see what works for you. They're all kind of cool. Just pay attention to if it's magic or feathering, and also pay attention to how much Skyborn might it takes. This one only takes 2, so if I get my, for my longsword, if I get my second attack on my combo, that's how I get 1 Skyborn might. If I do that twice or hit 2 enemies with that second hit, then I can get 2 charges and I've got that pretty quickly. Some of these take like 5. So you got to really be able to build up to that. And you also have to make sure, and you know, one thing might come before the other, chicken and egg situation, that you actually have 5 Skyborn Might. You don't want to equip something that requires 5, but you've only got the capacity for 3 at the time. So pay attention to that factor as well, because you want to make sure you can actually use some of these. But feathering versus magic, it's going to make a difference for what stats you've actually boosted up in your skill tree, and that's going to benefit you depending on what type of damage you're trying to do. Items are pretty normal. Armor is one of those things that you're going to find throughout the game. You're not really building armor to be a stat-focused anything. What your armor is going to be most used for is going to be for resistances. So say this is all the helmets. This one, for example, gives me a benefit to slashing and stabbing, lightning mitigation, and tenacity. But you'll notice down in the bottom, look at, say we'll go for... trying to find one that's pretty junky. Say I want to get something that has high levels of corruption or despair. Maybe I need both of those. Despair, by the way, is one of those buffs. If you see that start to build up on you, run away or line of sight whatever might be in front of you. It is one of those weird debuffs that will kill you fast, and pay attention to how low that buff gets for you, because if you'll notice right here, this helmet has minus 30 despair. So if I equip all the pieces of this, my despair buff is going to be, when I go to my character, my despair is a whopping 35. And I basically have that on a base level. Probably nothing else is given that to me. But if I switch over armor, and I look for something that gives me, say, plus 23, can I make it any higher? And I'm just looking for that number to be blue under despair. That's 31, that gives me more. And these are extreme examples, because obviously I was in the negative. Any of these will probably work. And you'll see if I come out now, you can change how you look, but honestly, my look changed for what buffs I needed. So now when I go, my despair is 184. It means that debuff buildup, and again, despair is one of those weird ones that it's like the enemy has to be in line of sight and some proximity to you, and that thing can build up over time, and there's not a lot you can do about it until you take that enemy out. It's one of the ones that just got really weird kills on me. Pay attention to that resistance. And this is why you might need to go buy some armor at a vendor, because you might need to use some of your red mercury essence to buy something at a vendor that lets you have a better resistance. So I'm always going through looking for, like, how high can I get despair as I work through this? Is anything going to be blue? It's like that one is. And now I'm up to 226 despair. It allows me to, like, move through the level that I need to, maybe, like, run towards that enemy that's causing despair. And it's hard to tell which ones, because there's not, like, a big obvious thing about them. But you might be able to cover the ground you need to be able to get to them. That'll help. Same thing, if I'm playing a boss that is going to be doing a lot of burn damage, or I'm in an area that has a lot of corruption, see what armor you can swap to that's going to give you a boost to corruption, for example. And that's going to allow that, you know, that status buildup. Maybe you're running through a swamp and you've got to deal with a lot of enemies that are doing that to you. Sometimes it's really annoying, and there's not so much you can do about it. But if you can lower that, now my corruption to over 200 for resistance, it's not going to, you know, cut it off completely, but it's going to really slow it down. And if you're really, really, really low on a stat by, like, moving a couple armor pieces around on accident, and for some reason, like, paralysis is really low, and then you walk into a paralysis, like, boss fight, check that occasionally, because armor resistances mattered way more than I expected. And again, you're going to have some weird looks. She's barely got a top on, but she's got pants, and you can't see her face. So you're going to have some weird armor looks, but pay attention to your resistances and pay attention to what you're fighting. And again, when you're in those instances where you're fighting something maybe a little crucial or maybe an area, make sure you equip some of these on your hotbar. Like corruption, for example, is one of those that just, you might be walking through an area that has a decent amount of that, and sometimes it's just going to get you. And I've got 110 of them. I found enough. I'll equip that so I can go ahead and trigger it if I want to. Then if I hold X, I can just do right trigger or right button. That's temperance, for example, and then I can come over here and I can do that one for the alleviation. So inventory, pretty basic stuff to cover, but your armor resistances, pay attention to those. They do make a substantial difference, because different areas, different boss fights, whether it's frostbite and snow, paralysis against certain bosses, corruption in that area, fire damage, try and stop that burn building up, all of those matter. And if you're really low on one of those stats, it is actually going to make a difference. Now, early on, you only have so much control for what you've found, but as I said, there are NPCs and vendors that are going to offer you different stuff to buy, depending on what random items you found in the world and turned into NPCs. You might have more options of stuff to buy, depending on what bosses you fought. You might have different armor than you thought you might have before. Check all of those things and check your resistances, because if something is like smoking you way too quickly, that might be something to consider. So make sure you equip this so you can use Temperance for sure. You know, tinker with your spells, your pendants. That's going to be all about your playstyle and that type of stuff. But I can't stress this enough, because this was a much bigger factor than I expected it to be. Then when I kind of embraced the system, I just knew once I got to a new area, figured out what was happening in that area for like whatever debuffs were coming my way, and I'd equip as much resistance as I could for that. Now, I'm going to end the video here for a little bit of entertainment value. You would look at this outfit and feel like this is absolutely ridiculous, but I will promise you I have ended up dressing like this at some point because I needed some resistance to be high. Look at my Blight and my Despair resistance. 210, 215, and I'm barely wearing anything. So, yeah, just be aware. Sometimes you're going to equip some stuff and you might look a little less than practical for combat, but it's going to be a thing. That being said, I hope you guys learned something from this video. If you found it beneficial, you know other people playing, send this to them. Hopefully they can learn a few things and not get spoiled either. I'm not going to say you're not going to see anything in this video for spoilers, but I really try to keep it pretty clean, not show you too much. And again, as you're running around in combat, you're going to learn your combos, you're going to figure out what works for you, your spells, your weapon swaps, and all of those things, and your abilities as well, like sword counter, for example. But one thing I would tell you, your charge attacks, when you can get that from behind an enemy, the stagger that you can get, and then that poise break critical attack where it's like the red icon, you stab it in, you do the whole animation. Anytime you can get those, and I will tell you, if you can dodge by a boss and then get behind him and get that big charge attack, humanoid boss fights especially, you can do quite a bit with that. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you guys learned something. Have a good one. I actually did have a really good time in this game. The more I think about it, the more it's growing on me. I think I was thinking B-, but honestly, I think like grade 8, it might be kind of creeping up more I think about this one. So hopefully y'all have fun, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, want to see more, subscribe, like, follow, all that good stuff. Thank you guys. And if you want to find me, it's Twitter, Twitch, Bluetooth, Blue Sky, wherever. All of that stuff at Ebontis. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon.